Hello guys, it is Induced Rhino back for another commentary in Forza Horizon 2. So yes, as you know, welcome to the second part of the Hypercar series. And yes, you probably would have known that I did change the name of the series from Hypercar Speed Run to Hypercars Test Run because, yeah, Test Run just sounds wrong. Yeah, because Speed Run just sounds wrong and no one has ever done that, and basically it's not just about getting a top speed of the cars, it's just about driving them, testing them, and talking about them, and that's why it's called Test Run. And yeah, on the last episode, it wasn't very good, because I didn't give enough information about the cars, like, I didn't say what sort of engine they had and stuff inside them, but yeah, I wasn't going into them very well, but in this one I will. And yes, before I start, I'd like to give another shout out to my friend named TrizGV, and like me, he is a YouTuber on Forza Horizon 2. He's not that big of a YouTuber, but has a little bit more subscribers than me, has just over 900, I believe. But yeah, he's a really good guy, makes really good commentaries and non-commentaries, and his non-commentaries are just basically cruises on any sort of random cool car, and his commentaries are like just not really drift builds, but similar to this, like reviewing different cars. So go check out his channel, he's a really good guy, and yeah, his link will be in the description. So anyway, in this series, yes, this is the second part of the series, and we look at 3 new hypercars. Well, not really new, but different ones than we did in last episode. So yeah, we've got the 2002 Enzo Ferrari, the LaFerrari, and the Lamborghini Veneno, which is a really good car. Cool car. Yeah, it just looks so good. But first, let's have a look at the LaFerrari. It has a, I believe it has a 65-degree rear-mounted Ferrari F140 6-litre V12 engine, which gives it 963 horsepower. Very powerful, and it weighs 3,000 lbs. Yeah, and it has 663 torque power, so it's actually really powerful. And yes, it's rear-wheel drive, and the speed of it is 8.3. We have good handling of 8.8, good acceleration and launch, and maximum braking. Yeah, because this car has a high-performance anti-lock braking system, and it has electric traction control, and it has is equipped with, so let's just have a look at it anyway. Sorry, this is awkward. So first we'll just change the units so it's measuring kilometers instead of miles. So let's take a look at it. So yes, the back and front is equipped with carbon ceramic Brembo discs. On the back it's 380 millimeters, and on the front it's 400 millimeters. So, and we've got the twin sides because it's like a sort of T at the back with the Ferrari logo, and we've got the twin exhaust pipes, those brake lights, and the tail lights. So yeah, the back looks pretty good. Side looks pretty good, and we've got that big curve and there's butterfly doors. And yeah, we look at the front, and yeah, like I said, it has carbon ceramic Brembo discs. And the top, if you so before we go into the top, so there's also these air filters at the front, which the air goes inside there. The air goes inside the bottom and comes out of those. And when you look at the top, it would sort of look like that part, which looks like the top of a helicopter, would look like thick bulletproof glass, but it's not. It's plastic and aluminium. And we've got the V12 right there, and the wheels have 104 inches of wheelbase. So the interior just looks so luxurious and so good, but Looks better on the driver's seat than on the passenger seat. And let's take a listen to it. And when we hear it inside, when we hear it inside, compared to what it sounds like on the inside, because it sounds not as loud. Yeah, it just sounds more vibrating inside than outside. It sounds vibrating. Well, you know what I mean. It sounds a lot different to when it does inside, because inside it's like when you're inside a plane where it's actually really loud. It's not loud. Yeah, because so yeah, it sounds really good both outside and inside, and it has really good acceleration. So we'll talk about this car. It can go 0 to 60 miles, which is 100 kilometers in under 3 seconds, which is really good. It can go to 0 to 200 kilometers in under 7 seconds, and 300 kilometers in 15 seconds. Well, that's in real life. Yeah, in real life, the top speed of this car is 350 kilometers an hour. And with this car, they made 500 of these cars, so that's the only thing about this car. It's not as rare as it should be. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, when we get inside, it sounds quieter. So yeah, all the noise, it's sort of like that. All the noise from the outside is only half the noise from the outside. Is only half the noise on the outside is coming inside, because it's less gravity inside than it is outside, because just like in a plane, like I said. Yeah, they produced 500 of these, so it's not as rare as it should be. It's not the rarest hypercar, considering that it's not that rare. And Top Gear have not driven this car until now, and they produced this car 2 years ago. They first produced it 2 years ago, and it's not as rare compared to. I lost control. So yeah, with the McLaren P1, I think this was made about the same time as the P1, and they truck in the way. So yeah, I think the P1 handles a bit better, but this car, yeah, is just really good. Sounds really good, really fast, really good acceleration, and yes, it just has so much technology, like ESC stability control, high performance anti-lock braking system, electric traction control, active aerodynamics to enable maximum performance, and more. And those are most of the electronic controls in it. And all I have to say, that's pretty much all I have to say about this car. Just really powerful for a Ferrari. It's Ferrari's most fastest and most powerful car they've ever produced by far. Yeah, because the next car we'll be going into is the Enzo, and yeah, that is the Processador. That was the Enzo was I think this car was a replacement for the Enzo and the FXX. Yeah. The Processador. I don't know how to say it, it's so embarrassing. But anyway, yeah, the brakes are really good. I didn't brake the best there. So we move on to the next car. Okay, so the next car is the 2002 Ferrari Enzo Ferrari. So it's just like with the LaFerrari, the word Ferrari is said twice in the name. Except the word LaFerrari basically means in English the Ferrari, so it's called the Ferrari. But this is the 2002 Enzo Ferrari, so yes, this came before the LaFerrari, and we've got 650 horsepower, so that's less horsepower than I expected. 300 horsepower less than the LaFerrari. That's just so sad. And it weighs about the same, and it has 484 torque power, because I don't know what LB feet FT means, because this is different measurements. But it doesn't have as much torque as the LaFerrari, and which is a bit of an unfortunate. But the LaFerrari was on full S2 power, so this isn't really on full S2 power. And yes, like the LaFerrari, it is rear-wheel drive. The speed is 8.1, so in this game it says it's slightly slower in this than the LaFerrari in this game, but actually, believe it or not, in real life the top speed of the LaFerrari is 850 kilometers and 350 kilometers, but the top speed of the Enzo in real life is 355, so they've made a mistake in this game. So have a look at it in photo mode. So the back looks slightly different to the back of the LaFerrari, or a lot different, because the back of the LaFerrari, both sides look exactly the same, like symmetric. It's the same thing with the Enzo, but it didn't have that big T. And yes, the Enzo the engine is rear mounted, but I believe the engine in this, is front mounted. And yes, the front, you'd say, looks a little bit retro, considering that this car's made in 2002. Yeah, so even though it is not as powerful and not as good looking as the LaFerrari, it's still a really good car and still is the predecessor of the LaFerrari. And yeah, they actually produced less of these than they did with the LaFerrari. They produced only 400 of these. They produce like 100 less. They produce 100 more LaFerraris than the amount of Enzos they produce. So the sound of it, even though it is a similar engine, a 65-degree Ferrari F140 it's actually not a 6-liter V12. It's actually a 4 valves per cylinder V12 engine. And yes, it's the Ferrari's F140B. So it sounds slightly different, actually more turbo. So yeah, this car drives just as well as the LaFerrari and handles just as well. But actually, maybe, yeah, the LaFerrari sounds slightly louder, but this one sounds, to me, actually sounds, yeah, I actually like the sound of both of them, but yeah, I actually like the sound of both of them, but they both sound different. Like, this one sounds more turbo. Actually, the LaFerrari sounds more louder and turbo, because if it sounds louder, that means it would most likely go faster. And yes, when you get inside, like when you got inside the LaFerrari, the sound sounded a lot different, because most of the sound, half of the sound was taken away. But when you get in the, we'll just reset the damage. Yep, that's good. But when you get inside the Enzo, it doesn't sound too much different, unlike the LaFerrari. And yeah, this doesn't feature as much electronic controls and technology as the LaFerrari, but it still has Formula One. It still has Formula One powers, such as the F1 gearbox, as they call it, clutch mechanism, and it was the first car to be produced with LED lights, which is the lights you can see on the steering wheel, which light up when you need to change gears. And of course, unlike the LaFerrari is 7 gears, but this one is 6 gears, because back then they didn't have 7 gears yet. It goes from 0 to 60 miles. It goes from 0 to 60 miles in just over 3 seconds, surprisingly. So it's actually slower. Yeah, it goes from 0 to 60 or 60 miles or 100 kilometers in just over 3 seconds. So it doesn't have as good acceleration launch as the LaFerrari. So they made a big upgrade with the LaFerrari, because they gave it more power and more acceleration, more luxurious and more technology. And it gets to 100 miles or 160 kilometers in 6.6 seconds. So yeah, and also I don't know much to say about this because it's similar. It's not too much different to the LaFerrari, and this is the predecessor of the LaFerrari. Yeah, and the Ferrari FXS in 2005, this car was replaced by the FXX, which is similar, looks exactly like it, it's just more powerful. I think it was just as powerful as the LaFerrari. I don't know, but yes, and like the LaFerrari, the wheelbase, it has 104 inches of wheelbase, and it features it features the carbon ceramic Brembo discs, but not as much, yeah. And it only shifts gears in 150 milliseconds. Yes, and those brakes were pretty good. So we move on to the next car, which is the 2013 Lamborghini Veneno. Now, this is probably the world's most gorgeous and most expensive supercar or car in the world. So yes, compared to the other hypercars we've done previously, it's not as fast, but it has 740 horsepower, so a little bit more than the Enzo, but still not as much as the LaFerrari. It weighs slightly more than the Enzo, the Enzo and the LaFerrari, 3,218 lbs, and it has 508 torque power, so just as much as the LaFerrari. And yes, it is all-wheel drive. And Lamborghini only produced 3 of these cars in the world. Yes, you heard me, 3 of these cars in the world. So it's very rare. Yeah. So let's change the settings again. And then we'll have a quick look at this beautiful car in photo mode. Yeah. So, yeah. So the side just looks really good, really smooth. Same as the Aventador we did last week. The top, that big adjustable wing, is adjustable in 3 different aerodynamic positions. And up there, those scales, those air intakers just make the car look so beautiful. And that wing is just so big, it would make you think that this was Batman's or Superman's car if Batman or Iron Man's car if Iron Man couldn't fly, and if Batman didn't use a Batmobile, he used a smaller vehicle, this would be the perfect vehicle. Yes, you can actually get this vehicle in the Batmobile design. So this car does also feature a carbon fiber exterior and interior with carbon fiber monocoque with aluminium front and rear frames, so really cool. And so the wheel is just can't stop looking at it. And so yeah, that's pretty much all to look at. So Lamborghini made this car to celebrate 60 years of Lamborghini, and this car was made about a year after the Sesto Elemento because they're both similar, both look beautiful, both are about the same price, both are very fast, but this car is actually heavier than the Sesto Elemento, so it's different to the Sesto Elemento. And yes, driving sounds really good because it has once again a V12 engine just like the LaFerrari and the Ferrari Enzo, but it's a 60-degree 6-litre V12 engine. It has over 6,000 cubic centimeters of displacement and variable valve timing that's electronically controlled. So the engine in this is really good, and we're not going to test the braking because we've just gone the freeway, but it's got really good braking because it features dual hydraulic circuit brake. Yeah, it features a dual hydraulic circuit system, I believe the brake has, with a vacuum brake booster. Yeah, so they put just so many things in this car, just so many. And yes, when we drove the Aventador last week, that car was all-wheel drive because for some reason Lamborghinis have started making their cars in all-wheel drive, so this handles just as well as the Aventador, but it's slightly less faster. Yeah, and so compared to this car, compared to this car, the Aventador looks dull. That's what Richard Hammond said about the Sesto Elemento. But this car is just extremely rare. No one will be able to buy it, and it goes from 0 to 60 miles or 100 kilometers in just under 3 seconds, so about the same time as the LaFerrari. Yeah, well, that's in real life, because the speeds of the cars in this game aren't as realistic. The speeds of the cars in this game aren't very realistic compared to real life, because it says that this car is slightly slower than the LaFerrari by 4%, but the top speed of this car is actually 355 kilometers an hour, so it actually goes about the same speed as the Enzo and 5 kilometers faster than the LaFerrari. And yeah, because it's all-wheel drive, it does have a front and rear horizontal monotube damper. So that's all to say about this car. It's just such a really beautiful and flashy car. Really fast, sounds really good, and the colour and the wing and those air intakers at the back just really make it stand out. So, but yeah, this is the most expensive hypercar, so it's more expensive than the Bugatti Veyron, which we might be driving next week. And yeah, sorry about that noise in the background, it's just the rain. So yeah, so when we get to the festival, we can test the braking. So brakes just as well as the LaFerrari. So that's where we can basically wrap up the video. So thank you guys for watching. Second part of the Hypercars test run, because like I said, I renamed it from speed run to test run, or crazy hypercar test run, because all of these hypercars are just crazy. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please show some support by liking, and sorry about the lack of videos, it's just because I've been busy and you guys haven't been giving me very much support. I'm not being mean, but it's just honest. But yeah, stay tuned for the third part, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.